This is not just one category. Intellectual disability does not fall under one category. Each individual in that is a separate category by themselves. There are some who are able to take instructions, there are some who are physically able to do certain things that we tell them. There are many who cannot take instructions, or even if they can take, they're unable to do any of those things, so these aspects are there. Thousands of such cases like this have come to me, but generally what I found was initially we have attempted to do certain things. But I would say, just to give some kind of a context, I'm saying, let's say a person who is considered to be intellectually normal, physically normal kind of person, let's say if I can teach something to that person in 1 hour, this may take 100, 200 hours. So the question is always about creating such dedicated people who were willing to spend that much time on one individual. Now if a normal intellectual person comes, I can put 1,000 people here and teach all of them that same thing in 1 hour. But now if such people come, maybe I'll have to take only 3 or 4 people and then work with them continuously. So we always found it is very, very challenging, so we came up with another alternative for autistic children. I don't have all the medical study things off the cuff, but I can send it to you, you can look at it and contact our doctor who works with this. So when I realized that a whole lot of them are not able to perceive the instruction or translate the perceived instruction into action for whatever their disability is, then we came up with what is called as a Kleshanashana process. It is a simple… a practice. See, this is something that people have not understood. Yogic practices are there for those who are capable of practicing. That also, as I said, every human being is in a different level of intellectual capability or disability, each one of us. So, what you can teach to one person, another person may not be able to comprehend and practice the same thing. It will take many years for them to come to that place. Some, right away I may teach them something today, but another person will take 2 years of experience before they come to be able to perceive that. If you teach that dimension to them when they are not ready, it will not only go waste, it is also possible if they simply do it with force, they can even cause damage to themselves. So this is very calibrated kind of process. So there is another dimension to yoga, which is ritualistic. Yoga is purely about inner experience. It is not a religious process. When I use the word ritual, it unfortunately gets connected to, a religious process. But I would say all of us brush our teeth in the morning. It's a ritual that we have taken up in our life, that we have to brush our teeth in the morning. There are some people who are not taking up such ritual. It has its consequences, everybody knows this. From another time, if you look a few generations ago, that was the situation, and today it's very different. So we took up that ritual and it works. So we developed certain rituals with which those who are completely incapable of taking instructions or they're not able to translate the instructions into action within themselves, even if you teach the same thing every day, they will do something else, some of the children. So after seeing this, we developed some simple rituals that we perform for them. And this is a totally unexpected result. We did not expect such a result. We did this with a certain intent, but the results that came out are quite absolutely amazing and impressive. I don't have all the results, but autistic children have responded to these rituals in a very, very positive way. So, translating a practice that you could do from within so that somebody else can do it to you from outside is one possibility. But once again, because you can't categorize all of them in one category, you can't put all of them in one basket, there is an issue about that also, but it could be done reasonably well. We could categorize them into 4 or 5 segments and try to apply a certain type of ritual to them, and it will make a difference. So having said that, well, I feel the most important thing for a child who has come with such an intellectual disability is A more accepting society, that is what is key to all this. It is just that, suppose let us set a physical standard that we will take an Olympic gymnast and say this is the standard human being, then all of us are cripples, isn't it? Or you say intellect means you must be like Albert Einstein, then all of us are cripples. So, without setting standards, looking at every life for what it is and doing the best that we can do around that is something that has to come into a social fabric. Without that, I don't think there is any science or any yoga which is a perfect something for children who have come like this, or for any human being for that matter. More accepting human society, more accepting consciousness within the human being is, I think, the key factor. Then there are many ways in… I think… I've seen some of the parents who have such physically challenged or intellectually challenged children, they have come up with their own wonderful rituals for the children, their own methodologies of their own. I think that's the only way you can really address that. Though there are some standard methodologies, I think the most important thing is an absolutely accepting human beings and human society is the fundamental to address that issue.
In a regular population, children and adolescents with no acute emotional issues, how young can we teach them yoga and meditation?
A very simple form of yoga could start at the age of 7. We have children's programs like this, well-structured children's programs. But there are other ways to teach yoga when they are 2–3 years of age, that is simply by using certain sounds. I must tell you from my experience, about maybe 16 or 17 years ago, or a little more than that maybe, when we first started the Isha Home School, one early morning I went for their assembly, where children have assembled, and they're all sitting like this. In there we make sure that they sit on the floor cross-legged. All our class arrangements are like this, they have tables, but they sit on the floor because sitting cross-legged has very in yogic sciences, cross-legged sitting and your brain development are very connected. So they have to sit cross-legged. But they were all like this, like that. I looked at these children and said, why are they like broken tops, they can't sit quiet. And I said, let's do one thing, daily 12 minutes, we will just do the 7 notes of music, sarigama padanisa. In a certain… there are various complex arrangements of that, at a certain level, we will start 12 minutes a day. You won't believe, after 2.5–3 months I went there, they're all sitting unmoving like this. This is what it can do, just the sounds. So, if you want to start early at 3–4 years of age, the best thing is sounds, without physically doing anything, because a child can always do it, overdo it, or make an excess out of what is being taught to them, they can do various things, but sounds are safe. You can just play it around them and ask them to repeat that, which they love to do, and it will also bring a certain sense of rhythm. Their ability to learn language will be greatly enhanced if they understand the nuances of sounds. This is something that's missing, we are just teaching language. There is no instruction about the nature of sound and how it behaves within us and how we can use it. If this aspect of sound comes into everybody, they would all pick up any language like that effortlessly. And especially in cultures like this, like United States, where people are just stuck to one language. If you want to live in India, you must know at least 4 to 5 languages, otherwise you can't live there. It's every few kilometers that you drive, you have to speak a different language. But when you're stuck to one language, there are lots of studies, we've always seen this as Nada Yoga. There are lots of today, the modern medical kind of studies which say that using a whole range of vocabulary or using a whole range of sound systems within you is very key, very significant for your brain development. This is called as Nada Yoga, that is, you use the sound to develop your system, both physiological and psychological development. This can be done at the age of 2.5 to 3 itself, it can start. I wanted to ask you one more question, and I also have one question for Murali. The question is, see, we firmly we very clearly see, this I know from my experience, we very clearly see till a child is 4.5 years of age, the stresses and tensions that the parents go through, particularly the mother, directly influence the development of the child. It may not be happening in the child's presence. Wherever it happens, it impacts the child. This is something we are very conscious of, and we feel that this is something that must be managed. This is why post-pregnancy there was so much protective atmosphere, because when you're feeding the child, you must be in a certain state. Only then you're bringing forth a better human being than yourself. Otherwise, you will bring so many things. But today, in modern life, people are drinking alcohol, they're smoking. Within few days or weeks, they're back to work, going through all the whatever stresses and turmoils that they're going through. In your opinion, that you have studied this, what do you think is the impact of this, this dimension that… I mean, today if you speak about it, it looks like you're talking against women. It's not about being against women. We need to understand, if we look at man and woman biologically, the significance of a woman is, a woman's body has more deeper responsibilities of life than a man's body. Man's body is designed to protect and procure. A woman's body handles a whole new creation. Well, bearing a child is not just a simple act of reproduction, this is a whole new creation of a new life within her own system, for which her chemical fluctuations are much more than in a man's body. Variety of fluctuations are there because it has to go through a whole change, which may also work to her disadvantage if she is not in ideal conditions compared to a man. But this does not mean it's a disability or a disadvantage. Actually, a woman's body is invested with a deeper responsibility of life. We exist here, you and me are here only because of that. Taking that into consideration, the way we have structured our society right now, everything that a man does, a woman has to do, in this are we losing out something very vital in producing a more competent, more capable and more better next generation.
Interestingly, when infant psychiatry is a field by itself, I have seen